behind the scenes of structural inspections, what happens and why it matters. Hey guys, Junior here, owner of 7 Construction, and today I'm taking you behind the scenes of something most homeowners never really see, a structural inspection. And I know inspections do not sound exciting, but if you're remodeling, removing walls and adding openings, changing layouts, or dealing with old framing, this is one of the most important parts of the entire project, because a structural inspection is not just someone walking around with a clipboard. It is a process that helps confirm your home is safe, properly supported, and being built the right way. So in this video, I'm going to break down what actually happens during the structural inspection, what inspectors look for, and why it matters so much. Before we get into it, do me a quick favor. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep making straightforward remodeling advice for homeowners who want to understand what is really happening behind the walls. And for doing that, here's a picture of what happens when a structure gets treated like a suggestion. Now, let's get into the first thing that happens during the structural inspection. Step 1. The inspection reviews the plans. The first thing that usually happens is the inspector prepares a work to the approved plans. This is important because the inspection is not based on opinion, it's based on what was approved. That could include structural drawings, engineering details, framing plans, beam inspections, hardware requirement, foundation details, and permit documents. For example, if a wall was removed, the inspector wants to know, what was the load bearing? What was the beam was approved to replace? How is the beam being supported? Are the posts correct? Are the footings correct? Is the hardware installed properly? This is why planning matters so much. The inspector's not just looking at whether something looks strong, they're checking whether the work matches the approved structure. So remember, the inspection starts with plans, because the plans tell everyone what's supposed to be built. But once the plans are reviewed, the inspector starts looking at actual framing. Step 2, they check the framing. Next, the inspector checks the framing. This is where they look at the bones of the project. Studs, headers, beams, posts, joists, blocking, shear walls, connections, all the parts that home transfer weight safely down to the foundation. And this matters because framing is not just about wood being put together. Every piece has a job. A header carries weight over an opening. A beam carries load across large spans. A post transfers that load down. Blocking helps keep framing stable. Hardware holds critical connections together. If one part is missing, undersized, or cut incorrectly, or installed in the wrong place, it can affect the entire structure. And that's why framing inspections happen before everything gets covered up with drywall. Once the walls are closed, those details are hidden. So this is a moment to verify the structure before the project moves forward. Framing inspections matter because they confirm the structure is correct before it disappears behind drywall. But framing is only one part of the inspection. The next thing they check is how everything's connected. Step 3, they inspect structural hardware and connections. One of the biggest things inspectors look at is structural hardware. This includes joist hangers, straps, hold downs, post bases, anchor bolts, brackets, clips, and other connections. And those small metal pieces are more important than most homeowners realize, because structure is not just about the size of wood. It's also about everything is connected and have the correct beam, and you have the correct post. You can have the correct frame, but if the connections are wrong, the structure is not complete. Inspectors look at whether the right hardware was used. They check whether it was installed in the right location. They look at the fasteners. They check the nail patterns. They make sure the connections matches the approved plan or code requirements. This is especially important in areas where structure needs a resistant movement, because there's uplift, lateral raises. The details matter. A missing nail, a wrong screw, or incorrect bracket might look small, but structurally, it can be a real issue. Structural hardware matters because the strength of the project depends on the connections, not just the lumber. It's just the framing and hardware are checked The inspector looks at the load path. Step 4, they verify the load path. This is one of the most important parts of a structural inspection, the load path. A load path is basically how weight travels from the structure. The weight from the roof, ceiling, second floor, or wall has to move safely to the beams and eventually down into the foundation. If the path is broken, the structure can have problems. For example, you can't just install a beam and assume the job is done. The beam needs to be supported. The support needs to carry the load. The load then transfers down and the foundation needs to be able to handle it. That's why removing a wall is not as simple as knocking down a pudding in a bigger opening. You have to know what that wall is carrying. You have to know where that weight goes after the wall is removed. And you have to make sure the new structural carries a load safely. And that's exactly why structural inspections are so important. They help confirm the load has a proper path from top to bottom. A structural inspection makes sure the weight of the home has a safe path all the way down to the foundation. But the structure is not only about what was newly built. The inspector also looks at problems with the existing home. Step 5, they look for existing structural issues. Another point of inspection is looking at the existing structure. That matters a lot in remodels because once walls are opened up, you sometimes find things nobody could see before. Water damage, termite damage, rotten framing, cracked beams, sagging joists, old repairs, improper framing from a previous remodel, unpermitted work, and when those things show up, they need to be addressed. Before the project continues, this is where homeowners can get frustrated because it feels like a surprise, but the truth is, this is exactly why inspections are valuable. They help catch these problems before they get covered up again. Because the worst thing you can do is hide a structural issue behind a beautiful new finish. You might have a new drywall, new paint, new cabinets, and new flooring, but if the structure underneath it is compromised, the project is not truly done right. Structural inspections help catch those hidden problems before they become an expensive problem later. And once the inspector finds an issue, here's what happens next. What happens if something fails inspection? Now let's talk about what happens if something fails inspection. First, it does not automatically mean the project's a disaster. A failed inspection usually means something needs to be corrected, clarified, or rechecked before the project can move forward. Maybe a piece of hardware is missing, maybe the wrong fastener was used, maybe the framing does not match the approved plan, maybe the inspector needs clarification from the engineer. Maybe an existing condition needs to be repaired before converting the wall. The important thing is how the issue gets handled. A good contractor does not argue with the inspection process. They identify the correction, they communicate the issue, they fix it properly. Then they schedule re-inspection. That is the right way to move the project forward because the goal is not to pass inspection just to pass. The goal is to make sure your home is safe, code compliant, and built correctly. A failed inspection is not the end of the project. It is a checkpoint to make sure the work gets covered before moving forward. And this is why homeowners should care about inspections, even if they never see them happen. Why structural inspections matter to homeowners. Here's why all this matters to a homeowner. A remodel is not just about how the finished space looks. It is about what is behind the walls because the part you see at the end, the tile cabinets, countertops, paint, flooring, that is only the finish. The structure is what makes a project safe and durable. Structural inspections help protect the homeowner. They help protect the investment. They help prevent unsafe work. They help catch mistakes before they are covered. They help make sure the remodel was done the right way. And they can also later, when you sell the home, buyers, inspectors, appraisers, and lenders all care about what was the work done properly. So yes, inspections can feel like a delay, but they're not there to slow the project down. They're there to make sure the project is being built correctly. Structural inspections protect the home, the homeowner, and the long-term value of the remodel. And this is exactly why we take this part seriously at 7 Construction. At 7 Construction, we care about what happens behind the walls just as much as what you see at the end, because a high-end remodel is not just about finishes, it's about doing the work properly from the inside out. That means planning the structural correctly, working with the right plans, coordinating inspections, addressing issues the right way, and making sure the project is built with the long-term quality in mind. The homeowner may never see every bracket, beam, fastener, or framing detail after the walls are closed, but these details matter. They're what separate a remodel that only looks good from a remodel that is actually built right. A quality remodel starts behind the walls, not just with finishes. So if you're remembering anything else from this video, remember this. Structural inspections may not be the most exciting part of a remodel, but they are one of the most important. They help confirm the framing is right, the connections are right, the load path is right, and any hidden problems are handled before the project moves forward. So if you're remodeling, moving walls, opening up spaces, or changing the layout of your home, do not treat the structural inspections like a formality. They're there to protect your home, your safe, and your investment. If you want more behind the scenes remodeling advice, subscribe. And if you're in Fresno or Clovis and you're planning a high-end remodel, reach out to Southern Construction. We'll help make sure your project is built right from the inside out.